Let me be crystal clear. 40 is not the end of your story. It's the beginning. If you're willing to burn the script that's been handed to you. Because see, the reality here, most men don't reinvent themselves. They recreate their past selves. Same habits, same stories, same excuses, wrapped in different distractions. They wake up at 40 and think, fuck, it's too late. It's too late to change. It's too late to start over. It's too late to become the man that I'm meant to be. But I am here to tell you loud and clear, it is not too fucking late. I'm living proof of that. My reinvention didn't start until I was 40, and I'm getting better every single day. Because let me ask you, what is the alternative? More of the same? Because if you're anything like me, then the pain of staying the same was just far too much. The pain of living out of alignment, I could not stand. Right? And see that pain that you're feeling right now, that restlessness, that irritability, that discontent, that frustration, that sense that you are built for more, right? That is not a sense of failure. That is a signal. It is your soul pulling rank on your fucking ego. And at 40 years old, or even older, right, you've got wisdom, you've got scars, you've got that invaluable life experience. But you've also got a choice. You can remain the same version of yourself that is playing safe but small, or you could become the man you are fucking meant to be. In today's video, I'm going to walk through exactly how I reinvented my life at 40. After addiction, after breakdowns, after bankruptcy, after prison, after wasting years chasing the wrong version of success. Right? Because when I was coming up to 40, I was completely a disaster, right? On the outside, I might not look it, right? On paper, I'd done some things that were right. I'd built businesses, I'd made money, I had found success, I had a family. But inside, I was at breaking point every fucking day. Addiction still had me by the throat, right? I was drinking daily, sometimes before I even got out of bed, until I passed out. I was using drugs just to feel normal, waking up with the cycles of regret, shame, and that promise to change that was fucking a lie every day, right? There would be points throughout my life where I would clean up a bit. I would hit the gym, I would eat clean, I would get all fired up. But it never lasted because in my head, I always thought it's only a matter of time before I fuck up, right? Because I was still attached to an idea that I hadn't questioned, right? The version of me that needed to be seen more than I needed to heal. Right? The version of me that thought muscles or money or success would fix that fucking pain that I was carrying inside. Right? That boy in a man's body who just wanted to feel like I belonged, like I mattered. Right? And then I hit a wall. Right? And not the type you will bounce back from. This was my final rock bottom because I looked in the mirror and I didn't know the man looking back. Bloated face, all spotty, blotchy, eyes empty, no direction. And honestly, I wanted to end it all, right? I did not want to be here anymore, right? And that was the moment the mask slipped, right? Not because some guru gave me the answers, not because I found the magical morning routine, but because see the pain of staying the same, I just could not deal with it anymore. And I had to get brutally honest with myself, right? I saw how I'd spent 40 years performing, trying to prove that I was enough, right? Trying to outrun or outmedicate the pain, trying to impress people who never really saw me and honestly didn't really fucking matter in my life. And this was the start of my reinvention. I had to strip everything back. I got sober, but for real this time, right? Not just for my family, but for me, for my soul. I started training again, right? Not for abs, but for how it made me feel. Right? I cleaned up my food, started meditating, journaling, got out in nature. Right? I stopped trying to pretend I was someone else, stopped performing, and I started listening. And then the wake-up call that I never saw coming came. Literally, I had a spiritual awakening. Right? And I know how that sounds because many years ago, I did not believe in this shit. Right? I used to laugh at stuff like this. But see, when it happened to me, there was no denying it. I felt something that I had never felt in my life. And that was God, source, call it whatever you want. Right? I felt it and it totally flipped everything. Right? For the first time, I knew that I was here for a reason, that all the pain that I had went through was just preparation, that my path was not random, it was designed. And all I had to do was to let go and follow, right? That awakening didn't make things all easy, right? It didn't give me a magic roadmap, but it cracked the fucking shell that I'd been living in for far too long. And see, since that day, I have rebuilt myself from the inside out. I have not touched alcohol or drugs. And this was not to impress anyone or for anyone else. This was for me. This was me to become the man that I know I was sent here to be. Right? And this is why I say this to you today, brother. You don't need to find your purpose. You need to remove what's blocking it because it's already in you. It's been there the whole time, buried underneath the addiction, distraction, guilt, shame, noise, people pleasing. It's been there the whole time. And let me prove to you, right, how I know this. Okay, because most men, they don't fail to change because they're lazy. Right? They fail because they're still trying to solve new problems with an old identity. Right? Your brain isn't designed to help you evolve. It's designed to help you survive. Right? And see, survival, it means familiarity. So even when your habits are toxic and you're killing you and your environment is totally low vibration and your routines are destroying you, your brain still says, stick with it because we know what it is. Right? This is what we call homeostatic resistance. The force inside your nervous system that fights anything that's unfamiliar. It wants you safe, and that means predictable, unchanged. Right? And that's why you keep going back to the same patterns. Like I did. You'd get so far in your reinvention, and something would happen to pull you back. And this isn't because you're weak. It's because you're being run by an outdated emotional blueprint. And the moment that you try to shift your identity, then the brain throws resistance at you, or the ego throws resistance at you. You're too old. It's too late. You know, what if you fail again? These aren't just thoughts. These are actual defense mechanisms. And this is where will and choice come into the equation. Because until you consciously choose a new identity and reinforce it through repeated aligned action, you will keep repeating the same unconscious script until you're in the grave. Okay, because up until don't know how long ago, they thought that the brain stopped developing at 25, right? But neuroplasticity doesn't stop at 25. That is a myth. Right? Modern science shows us that your brain can rewire itself up until you're 50, 60, 70 and beyond. If you apply enough focus, emotion and repetition. So every time you do something new, whether it's journaling, working out, showing up for that new version of you, you create these new neural pathways. Right? And here's a secret. Identity follows behavior, and behavior is the highest form of communication. Right? You don't become a man of purpose and discipline by thinking about it. You become him by acting like him until your nervous system catches up. Your brain's reticular activating system, right? That filters reality based on identity. If you believe you're a broken man starting too late, you'll filter out every opportunity that contradicts that. But if you start telling your nervous system, I am the type of man who reinvents, and then you back that by action, then your entire perception of reality change. In flow state, the science of flow state backs this up. Because when you're clear on your mission and fully present in it, you activate the flow state, right? And that's where time dissolves, right? Energy expands. Action just becomes effortless. I'm in flow state every day when I do this on YouTube, and I love it. Right, but flow only comes when you stop clinging to that old version of who you are and you step into what you're here to create. Okay, because let me tell you something, you're not too late. You are bang on time, right? Because see, your soul has no timeline, no expiration date, only initiation points. And sometimes, see that pain that you're feeling, that breakdown, that collapse, that identity crisis, that's an initiation. Right? See the great mystics, yogis, and the spiritual masters, right? They say the same thing. Suffering is not punishment, right? It's the crack that lets the light in. And when you cling to that old version of yourself, you block the signal, that divine whisper in your ear, the higher guidance, the clarity that you've been desperately begging for. But when you slow down and connect with stillness, you come into the now moment. When you stop trying to prove yourself and you start listening, then you can hear the voice, you can hear the guidance. You don't need to force your purpose. You just need to remove the bullshit that's in the way, right? And that's why spiritual practice isn't just some woo-woo thing, like I used to think it was. It's the way you clear the distortion between who you were and who you actually are on a soul level, right? Because Marcus Aurelius, he said at some point you must become the man you were born to be or remain forever a slave to fear. That's not a metaphor, that's a command in how we live. Right? The Stoics believed identity wasn't something you inherited or you were born with. You created it through discipline, integrity, through being in the now moment, that moment by moment choice. Right, so what would the Stoic do? He wouldn't wait for permission. He wouldn't wait for motivation. He'd wake up, define who he wants to be, and then live that definition into existence by rigorous action, aligned action. And he would look at his life and say, I may have wasted some years, I may have sabotaged, fallen, betrayed myself, but these were lessons. I'm still here. And as long as I'm here, I have the power to rise, to reinvent. Right? Psychologically, you're not stuck. You've been conditioned your whole life. Scientifically, you're not too old. You are adaptive way until fucking you're 100 years old. And spiritually, you're not broken. You're being invited in. And stoically, you're not helpless. You're in command. And that's the shift that you need to make, right? Because you're not the man who's missed his shot. You're not the man who's too old to change. You're not the man defined by what he used to be or what he used to do. You're the man who decided finally to stop bullshitting yourself. The man who stops chasing external validation and starts moving from that inner vision, that heart calling. Okay, the man who stops performing for an identity he outgrew fucking years ago and starts building the one his soul has been calling for. Right? You see, this shift, this reinvention, it's not about becoming someone else. It's about remembering who the fuck you are on a soul level underneath all the bullshit noise. Underneath the addiction, the people pleasing, the career masks, the ego bullshit armor, the fear of starting over. See that real version of you? He's not found. He's remembered. He's created. Right? You gain the psychological awareness to spot the old loops before they hijack you. Right? You apply neuroscience and flow state to rewire your behavior and focus. You embody spiritual truth by removing distraction and reconnecting to your higher self. And then you install that stoic discipline to make powerful choices regardless of the fucking emotion you're feeling. And see, together, those are the tools that you use. That is your new operating system. That is what the awakened savage does. That's how he lives. He doesn't run from the past, he alchemizes it. He doesn't fear change, he chooses change. He doesn't seek comfort, he disciplines himself towards purpose. And see if you're still breathing right now. It's not too fucking late. Right? You didn't miss the window. The window's wide open when you decide to show up differently. You're no longer the man who asks, what is my purpose? You're the man who clears the blocks so it can rise through you. You're no longer the man waiting to feel ready. You're the man who creates readiness through action. Right? You're no longer reacting to life. You're now building it. Okay, because you're not here to survive this world. You're here to recode it, thrive from the inside out, starting with yourself. Okay? And let's put this into action. Because you don't reinvent your identity by thinking about it. You do it by executing on structure every single fucking day. Right? This is where the work stops being a concept. Right? And becomes a code. Right? I'm going to walk you through the Reinvent for Purpose formula, which I created, which got me to where I am today. Right? Reflect times reignite times recode equals reinvention. And we'll do it through the 4 core domains of life: fitness, family, fulfillment, and finances. Okay, so step number 1, right? Reflect. This is a self-awareness audit, right? Before you make any moves, you need to face who you were, and right, go deep in this, right? What patterns do you keep repeating in each domain, right? In your fitness, family, fulfillment, finances, what are the repeating patterns, right? Then, what pain are you avoiding by staying the same? Okay, then what part of your identity is outdated but still running the show? Okay, every morning, journal. Where am I lying to myself? Right, do a weekly check-in. Go into solitude. No phone, no noise, just you and the truth. And ask yourself, who am I being in this area of my life? And is it aligned? This is the mirror. You cannot skip it. Self-awareness is the number one, like, key to change. If you're not aware of who you've been, how can you change? Okay, step number 2, we reignite that vision and that creative energy. You've got to reconnect with what actually matters to you. Not what you think you can achieve, right? Not what looks good on paper, but what sets your soul on fire. If nothing was in the way, what makes your heart beat faster? If money was no object, what would you do with your life? Right? In each domain, define your true end result. Right? So for fitness, it could be I choose a true end result of my body feels like a weapon all year round. Right? Family, I choose a true end result of a deep emotional connection with my wife and children. Fulfillment, I choose the end result of impacting millions through my story and my voice. In finances, I choose the end result of freedom, right? Whether that be time, money, whatever it is, and it's built through deep, meaningful, aligned work. Okay, in daily action, just write down your true end results daily. I write them, I've got my journal there, and I've got 10, right? So, but I'm only asking you to do these 4 now. But when I work with my clients, I say that there should be, a minimum of 8, but 10, and they fall into categories. But write down, I choose a true end result of dot, dot, dot. Then visualize them every single morning and ask yourself, what is the next obvious step? Because you will receive the guidance if you sit in stillness, right? Lock in identity aligned language. I am the man who dot, 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 right? And finish it, right? This step flips the whole script. Okay, and it gets you reignited, gets you that structure created. Step number 3. This is where we recode. This is where we replace the old code with the new. Right? You've reflected, right? This is what I was. You've reignited. This is where I want to go. Now we break the patterns that keep pulling you back. Okay, because see, recoding, it equals identity work plus subconscious programming plus new systems. Right? So every day, create one powerful statement per domain. Right? In fitness, I am the man who shows up and works out every day regardless, whatever that statement may be. Okay? Install one new habit per domain. Nothing drastic, right? Just 1% every day and build on that. Okay? Then we anchor with physical reps. The body leads the mind. Right? This is where your nervous system learns a new standard. Okay, and step number 4. This is where we reinvent. No more dreaming. No more future self hype. This is execution. Okay, we have daily non-negotiables, right? Morning routine, right? Morning, that could be grounding, right? I recommend fitness, meditation, journaling, breath work, silence, okay? We move that body with intent, right? So we do some type of physical exercise every day. We eat to fuel, not to numb, right? We complete deep work, right? One thing that moves to you towards your vision, right? A family presence check-in, right? Undistracted time with the people you love. And then an evening reflection. Did I live as the man I'm becoming? And then every week, have a review. What actions moved me closer? Okay, what ones pulled me off course, right? Where did I feel frustrated? Okay, where did I feel excited? Right? What do I need to tighten for next week? Okay, and then if you want to have a power move, get somebody who's going to hold you accountable. This could be a coach, this could be a friend, right? Somebody who's not going to take your bullshit, right? And it's going to call you out on your bullshit, right? This isn't about fixing the old you. This is about outgrowing him, so you can finally step in to the man you're meant to be. Reinvention isn't a moment, it's a structure. And when you run this formula every day, you don't just change your life, you replace the man living it. Okay, so listen, this isn't about a new strategy. This isn't about another motivational rah-rah moment. Right? This is about you stepping into the man you were meant to be. That's what reinvention is. Okay? It's about you finally letting go of the shit that has kept you stuck for years, the guilt, the fear, the outdated labels, the lies your identity told you just to survive. Because you're not too old, you're not too late, you're not broken. Right? You've just been buried under a cloud of bullshit. And if you're willing to really dig, if you're willing to face the parts of yourself you've been avoiding, and if you're willing to build a new internal structure brick by brick, you won't just reinvent your life. You'll finally step in and become the man you were always meant to be. And this is what we do here. Okay, and if this message hit home, drop a comment, please. For you, not for me, not for the algorithm, but for you to commit. I am ready to reinvent. That is your first rep. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. Right? This is where we are forming a brotherhood, where we can come together to rebuild our lives with purpose, power, and presence. And share this with another man who you think is stuck. This might be exactly what he needs to hear so he can remember who the fuck he is. This is your time. This is our time. And not because the world says so, because you finally say so. And as always, I truly love you, brothers. Thank you for being with me on this journey. Okay? I mean it from the bottom of my heart. Have a great day. Another video here, and you can subscribe here. I'll catch you on the next one.